Hey, Instagram. I'm going to do a live and talk about some regenerative agriculture and kale-free keto juice because I've been kind of opposed to green juice for quite a while because it's usually not good and it usually spikes blood sugar. Been working with a guy on an answer for this that's supporting small farmers, closed loop. I think we actually cracked the code, and I'm going to share this with you guys, answer some questions for you as well, which is super cool. And I'm just going to add a guest in here. Give me 2 seconds to do this. I love how they just make you do this while you're live. Come on, Instagram. I wish you guys would do this a little bit more nicely. Here we go. The farmer's juice, adding them in. All right, here's the deal. They should accept my request in a minute. What you'll find is that if you've been through the ringer for health stuff, you've probably tried a bunch of juice. Hey, Junaid, welcome.
Hey, Dave. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I was just sharing with people, when I was a raw vegan, I had this massive juicer, cost $800, and you would take pounds of stuff from the farmer's market and grind it out. And the idea is that you're going to get more nutrients here, but if you do juice that way, it's quite expensive, and the cleanup was just insane. And what I've wanted to do is say, all right, can I get juice? But I go to the store, and unless you're going to a juice bar and you custom make your juice, they're always full of kale and spinach, which are not things that you want to put in your body, especially raw, especially in juice, because it accelerates the oxalic acid and stuff like that. So a couple of years ago, Junaid sat down with me at the Bulletproof coffee shop in Santa Monica and said, hey, I'm one of the founders of Brain.fm. This is a brain hacking company. And I've lost a ton of weight. I want to figure out how we can do juice that's actually compliant with Bulletproof principles, which no one's ever done before. And I was a little bit skeptical, but we've been talking for a couple of years. And what do you know? Regenerative agriculture, a small farmer supporting soil building, grass-fed animal feeding, affordable juice that doesn't raise blood sugar. I think it's a sweet, a sweet situation. So I wanted to introduce Junaid to you guys and tell you about the farmer's juice. Junaid, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thank you for going from skeptical to being a believer by actually testing a ton of juices along the way and your team. Farmer's Juice, as you said, we are a cold pressed juice company that delivers nationwide organic cold pressed juices and wellness shots at nearly half the cost.
For $6.
Yes.
They're stable in your fridge for 30 days.
Yep.
Right. And this is something that's hard to do because if you look at the ingredients and everything, you go to the store, it's always grape juice and they put a bunch of sugar in it. And then you're basically drinking a soda with some oxalic acid from kale to boot. It's thefarmersjuice.com, right? I think a few people have already ordered some, are saying that they love it in the chats.
Yeah. Awesome.
So tell me, we already know because you've been on the podcast too, but for people on Instagram, you went from making sounds that change brain function to juicing. How just kind of walk me through the path?
Yeah, definitely. So I started my first company in college kind of out of necessity. I was raised by a wonderful Indian mother and a father, but when I was 12, my father passed away, and I was at a point in my life where my mother became super mom, and she took over, and she gave me the most amazing love and nurturing, and part of her formula was just making sure I was well fed. But when I came to college, I got on the standard American diet. I had no idea about Bulletproof. I think you were obese and I was obese at the same time back in the day. And Bulletproof was just getting started. So I ended up pretty much out of necessity when I was in college. I went to 50 plus job interviews and no one would say yes. So I started my first company and had a little bit of success. And then I started my next company, Brain FM. And I was just, running on high fumes and got to a point where I had a decent level of quote unquote material success and entrepreneurial success. But, speaking truthfully, my inner life was completely bankrupt. I had a low sense of psychological well-being. My inner peace was missing. And I was like pursuing this American dream, right? This entrepreneurial dream, this hustle. And you just realize that money is not happiness. So I was kind of burnt out in 2016, 2017. And I came across your work, Dave, and I lost 15 pounds by fasting, got on the Bulletproof diet, and just got in touch with my body's natural intuition and began to make better decisions. I was so against, I was so against meat in general, but when I learned about grass-fed, grass-finished, incorporated into my diet, it was like healing. I went from like night and day and I went to like black and white to like kind of full color. So I have a great amount of gratitude to you for just changing my life. And so when I
Thanks, man.
when I ran into the Bulletproof Cafe, I was like, oh gosh, I know he doesn't like juice. I was like, I know it, and he's so against kale. I was like, there's two people that don't like kale as you and Dr. Gundry, but I was like this, and for good reason, because the amount of the oxalic acid and the thallium, and it's not well talked about. So we ended up talking, and it took us almost a year to nail this formula. So we have now a line of ketogenic juices and wellness shots, and all the green juices don't have kale in them. We have one juice that has dino kale, which has a low level of oxalic acid.
And by the way, that's original Dave teachings. I actually taught that on the Joe Rogan show. I'm like, guys, if you're going to eat kale, dino kale is the lowest oxalic acid. You should still cook it and all. And I think you have like 1% or 1.5% in one of the juices, but you're phasing that out because I harassed you about it.
For good reason. I mean, thank you for doing that and saying yes to being an advisor and joining the company and mentoring us through this process. A lot of people's fridges with juices are going to be kind of it's like Christmas when you open your fridge. So I'm sure you and your family and your team have been kind of experiencing that. So this is an example of a focused greens juice. It has cucumber, basil, mint, ginger, lemon, turmeric, lime, but it also has matcha. So part of the thing that Dave and I wanted to do when we're formulating these juices is not only make sure all the good stuff's in there, it's coming from family farms, and we're taking care of the soil, and all the pulp actually gets reused and it gets donated to cows as cattle feed. So there's a lot of happy cows.
That's what I love. And guys, this was one of the things that I was, I'm a little bit concerned about. There's a lot of food waste that happens. Most people who juice at home, unless you have a compost or you live on a farm and you feed it to your pigs like I do, you end up putting it in the compost, industrial compost, which takes the most important plant matter that should be going back into our soil and basically puts it in, mixes it up with ketchup and whatever weird stuff people put in industrial compost that probably isn't good. You don't want to mix French fries into your compost. It doesn't make good soil. So the idea of buying from small farmers, not from a lot of juice companies actually buy frozen stuff from China and then juice it. So this is like real small California farmers juicing it and then taking the pulp, sending it back to the farmer, and they can feed it to animals that then make poop out of it, that then inoculates the soil and actually builds soil. That's why grass-fed matters, not just for your health, it matters for the planet. And when you're eating vegetables, if you can return that matter to the soil instead of to the dump or the industrial thing, it's really important, and it's something that's missing from the world of juice and all that. So all of these things lined up, and it seemed really cool. We got a couple questions here. I'm going to answer one of them and ask you the other one. One of them is, what's the deal with spinach and kale? There's a compound. This is something I wrote about in Fast This Way and in the Bulletproof Diet. For 10 years, I've been saying this, and it's starting to catch on, that when plants can't run away because they have roots, they develop ways to protect themselves from insects and animals eating them. So one of the compounds that they use is called oxalic acid. And oxalic acid binds to calcium in your blood and makes tiny microcrystals that circulate around that cause inflammation. They're tied to a condition called vulvodynia in women, which is, yes, your vulva get microcrystals. It's very painful. It's tied to inflammation and more specifically, poking holes in your gut. So we're telling ourselves we're healthy with our kale salads, but it's a major cause of kidney stones and gout. And so many people I've talked to, I'm like, you know what? If you're still having issues and you've gone Bulletproof, but you're doing, a greens powder that has a bunch of the stuff in it, try not doing that. And like, funny, I don't have the food cravings. I don't have the brain fog. It went away. So these are just plants trying to keep us from eating them. And that's one of the big issues from those two. The other one is that kale specifically binds to a very toxic metal called thallium that used to not be very present, but when we took lead out of our gasoline, we replaced it with thallium, which is called the poisoner's poison. It disrupts calcium in your cells. So what that means is you're not going to eat an oxalic acid free diet, but taking very high oxalic acid, things like that, it makes no sense. You should save your oxalic acid processing capabilities for dark chocolate because it's much lower and it tastes much better. So kind of punching yourself in the face with kale doesn't even taste good. It doesn't make any sense. Even as a farmer, a regenerative farmer, I mean, my pigs don't like kale. You know, they know you try to feed it to a horse, they'll usually spit it out. So this is one of those things where we think it's healthy, but it's not. And then if you're going to drink a juice, most juices spike your blood sugar, even the green ones that are supposed to be healthy. So one of the things that really I loved is I'm an advisor and investor in Levels Health. You know, I've got my monitor on right here to look at my blood sugar. You can drink one of your juices, the keto line. You have some with fruit in them for people who want fruit juice. But you drink one of those and it's completely level. And the head of, I think, head of partnerships there was like, yeah, your green juice is going to be BS. And he actually published his numbers. They're exactly the same. So guys, if you're looking for good greens, things like celery, cucumber, those are safe, right? Lettuce is also completely good, the dark lettuces. It's the issue with the kale and the spinach that's the chard is also a bit of a problem. So when you do that, you're going to feel different. And what I love about this too is that it's $6, and it's not $15 or $20 because no one can afford that long term unless you're exceptionally successful. So, question though, you use high pressure pasteurization. So in the past, most companies use heat, so they would basically cook it, and you're basically getting a thin vegetable soup at that point, even though it's refrigerated. And high pressure is when you take many atmospheres, like at the very bottom of the Marianas Trench, and you smash it, which kills all the microbial life in it, but maintains enzyme activity and all. But there's a question here saying, oh, that kills everything, it's no good. So tell me about HPP. What are the pros and cons of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So HPP is a process that's a food innovation breakthrough, really, and you introduce a juice bottle or even any kind of dip into this large machine that's as big as the size of a yellow school bus, and you introduce enough pressure and cold water into the machine, the juice bottle can go to the bottom of the ocean. It's that much amount of pressure. So with the physics and the chemistry of it, it neutralizes all the negative bacteria that would cause your juice to degrade after a day or two and make it really unsafe. And most juices that you would have at a juice shop and even at home juicing, after a day or two, if you have it in the morning, it's very different from even in the same day at the evening. So you notice that color change, you notice the taste is different, the quality is actually going down. So with HPP, it causes the nutrients to stay intact for a long time. And there's a lot of sort of, a little bit of pushback. Oh, it's not quote unquote fully raw. But what we kind of say is, hey, we want to go for an A, A plus. If you can juice at home and you have that time, you can spend 45 minutes to do it every day or pay $10 to $15 at a juice shop. Like more power to you and kudos to you for doing that and taking charge of your health. Like that's amazing. But there's roughly anywhere between a 1% to 5% nutrition degradation with HPP, but it still is incredibly nutrient dense. What we are actually doing is we're later this year we're going to be working with a nutritional lab analysis test because there's a lot of talk around this topic, but we want to actually publish some data around it. And when we do that, we will actually have some data to back it up. Right now, there's a lot of talk. But
a lot of the talk is actually coming from the companies that are doing heat pasteurized juice and saying we don't like this and all. And so I'm looking at the comment thread here. The things you guys don't know, anytime you're dealing with a food company, the level of detail that you can go into to do it right versus what's regulatory required, they're very, very different. And so I put Junaid through the ringer, to be perfectly honest. I'm like, this is not going to work. And I was pretty skeptical and pushed him really hard. But all the back end stuff, you're picking up the ugly produce that people, have a hard time, that farmers have a hard time selling. So the farmers make more money, which keeps them in business. A lot of small farmers are going out of business because of the pandemic. So it's helping the small farmers and it's going back into the soil. And every little thing you could think of, as far as all the things I could think of, you address each of them, which is admirable and unusual. And the fact that you got it down to $6, I also didn't think you'd be able to do that.
Yep.
With a 30-day shelf life. So you just order it and now you've got it in your fridge. And if you're like most people, you probably go to the store every 3 days to buy fresh vegetables right now.
Yep.
So you've got some fresh stuff in the fridge. people are saying, what do I do during a juice fast? Drink the keto juices during a juice fast, because a juice fast with fruit juice is dumb. If I can just, as an author of a book on fasting, people have been doing intermittent fasting for 10 years on Bulletproof. You spike your insulin when you drink fruit juice.
Yep.
So then you broke the fast. Like, sorry, it doesn't work.
It also makes you hungry.
It totally makes you hungry. So that's just a path to misery. I've done juice fasts with fruit juice. I was a raw vegan. Like I lived that life, and it's not a good thing. Right now, you don't ship to Canada or the UK yet, right?
Not yet. Canada soon. I know you're there. That's an incentive. We have a lot of.
I have to kind of send it to myself. He sends me in the US, then I re-forward it to myself. That's kind of a pain.
Yeah.
So it'll be in Canada soon.
Soon, after COVID kind of calms down, it'll make it easier for us to ship perishable product across the state.
So guys, I wanted you to know about this. I advise a good number of entrepreneurs. My job is to find new and unique and things that are better than the way we do it now. And then I share it with you whenever I can. So I try a lot of stuff that I never talk about because it's not worth it. And for me to step up and advise a company like this is a big thing for me. So I ran him through the ringer, and he more than delivered. So I want you guys to know about it. And I was like, come on, save some money for people. So thefarmersjuice.com/Dave, you save $5 on a box. Yep. Shipping is very affordable. And you can literally have a bunch of like pounds and pounds and pounds of produce in your fridge. You don't have to drink it every day. You can, but it's a way to get your veggies that you otherwise couldn't without all the nasty stuff that's in a lot of green juice, man. Spinach powder. I don't know why you would do that to yourself, but that's just me.
And I love that you really touched based on oxalic acid, and most people are skeptical about it. It's kind of deceiving if you buy kale, spinach, or chard, for example, and it looks fine. It looks like a safe vegetable. So there's a lot of skepticism. But if you're under the microscope, you can't catch what oxalic acid can do, the negative influences. There's no biological mechanism for you to detect that. So you just think it's safe, but it's kind of like slowly accumulating in your system and shredding your gut. In
fact, it can take 2 years to get the oxalic out of your system. You have to take lots of baking soda or potassium bicarbonate, and over time you get it out. So people are saying, but doesn't turmeric have oxalates? Guys, all plants, at least almost all plants, have some amount of it. What you want to do is choose low amounts. Turmeric has a lot of healing properties, and you don't put that much turmeric juice in there. So what you want to do is if kale is 100 or raw spinach are 100, what you want to do is get it down so you're in the 20s, right? There are a few people who are extremely oxalic acid sensitive, usually because they have a candida infection or they live in a house with toxic mold. And for you guys, you might need to be religious and eat a very boring diet for a little while. You might even want to go carnivore and stick. Well, it doesn't have to be full carnivore, but you can do grass-fed butter, and you can sort of the very all-green zone of the Bulletproof diet kind of thing. But for the vast majority of people, just don't eat so much of it. Like as an example, I was on Joe Rogan 3 times. And the last time, or maybe second to the last time I was on, I'm like, all right, Joe, you've been having all you guys drink kale smoothies. Let me teach you about kale. And here's how to do it if you have to eat kale. And what you would do is you would boil the kale in water with calcium carbonate or baking soda and dump all the water out. And you would use dino kale. And then you could freeze that and make a smoothie out of it. But why would you do that? But that's how to do it. And then, Joe had a commercial interest. One of his companies was trying to defeat Bulletproof. They lost, by the way. And about actually only a few months ago, he finally was like, you know what, guys, I had to quit drinking kale because of the oxalic acid. And Mike Tyson's on his show saying, killer kale, kale sucks. And I'm like,
oh, no
right.
way.
Yeah, I feel vindicated. So yeah, Mike Tyson agrees. Right. So, this is something, yes, the Kale Marketing Association, there is such a thing. They totally killed it. Nice job, guys. But the science doesn't back that up. So I believe that having a green juice that keeps your blood sugar stable, gives you more plant goodness without the plant badness is a pretty good strategy. Yep. So that's why it's here.
Yep. And there's something amazing when you have 1 to 1.5 pounds of produce in a bottle with just really nutrient dense phytonutrients. When you drink it, there's this immediate biological reward. You actually feel it. So the functional ingredients like lion's mane or matcha or even apple cider vinegar that we have in our green juices that we develop together, the whole point is, you shouldn't have something if it's not rewarding you, or you actually feel that vitality of that like food high, you get like a juice high.
It's how you feel after you drink it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's also this accumulating advantage over 30 days. So if you continuously have it, if you go to the gym once versus go to the gym 30 times, you're going to feel quite different. So thanks so much, Dave, for trusting us, believing in us, and coming on board.
You got it, man. Guys are asking like, what veggies should I eat? If you go to Dave-Asprey, I'm trying to type it in here, daveasprey.com/roadmap. This is the roadmap for the Bulletproof diet and the new fasting book that ranks veggies, including based on oxalic acid and other things that they can have that are irritating to the gut. So I'll type it in for you. Sorry, it's not clickable. But daveasprey.com/roadmap is easy enough to remember. So that'll help you understand what's going on. Just with veggie toxins in general, because not all plants are bad for you. There's some people who will go down that. You want to go carnivore for a month or two, that's great, but you're going to end up saying, I feel better when I eat low toxin veggies. I'm like, there's a name for the diet. It's called the Bulletproof diet. And this is totally compatible with everything that I've learned about health and nutrition. So I'm happy I get to drink these. My kids like them. They taste good. They aren't sweet
Nice.
like grape juice, but using the lemon and using mint and things like that, it's solid. It tastes good. It's actually something you want to drink, and you feel different after you drink it. And that's the hallmark of a really cool thing. So thanks, Junaid, for making something cool. Thank you for allowing me to work with you, and thank you for listening to all of my, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about that? So you nailed it.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave. I'm incredibly grateful. Cheers.
Good deal. I'll
Take
see
care.
you all later. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Dave.